If you want to support WEE Studios, you can do so at patreon.com, where you can give us monthly contributions to help our overhead and our rent. And many of you who are doing that actually get to pick a topic for 90s Percentile. You get to
What? Even me?
Well, not you, because
What? Even me?
You don't-
I could pick a topic.
not you, little street urchin.
Oh, shucks and golly.
It's Christmas Day. I know you didn't ask, but I thought you look Jewish, so I figured I'd let you know.
I'm 100% Jewish. Jesus Christ was just a prophet.
So anyway, if you want to be one of those lucky few who actually get to pick the topic for the episode, now's the time. And if you've already supported us on Patreon and you haven't let us know, is there a way that they can do that, Dan?
I wasn't paying attention.
You asshole.
Patreon.com/WEE Studios.
No, if they... This can't go at the top of the show. It's too long.
Oops. Enjoy the show,
Wait,
everyone.
I'm not done. Why do I feel like I'm the only one working here?
I thought that was a good intro. If you started by with "We're not done."
No. If you're, I'm getting through this.
This whole thing is
This is going in. I'm not
No,
doing a second take.
I can't put this in.
This is going in for the next 6 or 7 episodes.
Do you want to do another one?
You need to learn your lesson. You need to learn your lesson. There's no redos in life, Dan.
All right. Patreon.com/WEE Studios.
If you're in our tier that gets to pick a topic for 90s Percentile,
Yeah.
how do they give us that topic?
There is a special WEE Studios Elite. That's what that's short for.
Okay. It looked like WEE Light, like it was actually a lesser
WEE
form
Elite.
of WEE
No,
Studios.
it's very much improved.
It's the opposite. Okay.
A special link that you can use to submit topics directly to the WEE Elite topic generator.
All right. So they'll get all that when they sign up at patreon.com/WEE Studios. And all of our other shit is at WeePodcast.com. I was going to go into
Absolutely.
it, but it's been like 10 minutes.
It's been 10 minutes, and let's start the show. You can edit out that
I'm
jump
not-
part.
nope, that's all
No,
going in.
I can't.
This is going in too. This is all going in. I'm not hitting stop.
This is like a crazy long intro.
I don't care.
Enjoy the
That's
show.
what you get. You mess with the poll. 60 minutes are on the clock, and straight out of WEE Studios, this is 90s Percentile. My name is Jack.
My name is Dan, and we're talking everything 90s and maybe also everything before and after.
Your name is Dan. Our guest name is Dan.
What? I'm
This-
going to be so confused.
I thought that was the least common name in human history. How's it going, Dan Ozzi?
Hey, what's up, fam? I've been saying fam a lot lately. So.
And you just did. So, Dan, you're no stranger to WEE Studios.
No,
You've-
I'm one of the founders and
No.
co-hosts.
Oh, we're gonna go
See,
through this
the
for the next hour.
confusion.
Is this gonna go for the next hour? So you guys host Simpsons Trivia together.
Yes.
And you're best friends, and you hang out a lot. Is there? Do people both?
Have
call
we
you-
ever had sex?
Yeah.
Is that where you're going with it?
Ah, you know it, bro.
Is this an episode of Did You Just Have Sex?
Yeah. Boy,
I don't. What would the song be? What would the music?
I don't know.
cue
I
be
was
for
trying
that?
to think of it.
Have we
what's the sound
ever?
effect?
Where were you going with that question? I must know.
Have you ever had sex together? That's not a song.
What is love?
Anyway, no. My question is, when people are addressing both of you, do you go by last names? Dan 1, Dan 2?
Well, trivia people
know
will
what's
just
never
call
come
us
up?
Dans.
Yeah.
Like the Dans.
It makes it really easy, actually.
But like, if I want to direct a question to Dan Ozzi,
I guess
like
you
I
go last
literally
name.
just tried to do.
Yeah.
Well, I guess people would say like, "Oh, better Dan" would be in reference to me. Like,
In reference to me, obviously.
No,
of
no,
course.
I mean, like
Better Dan.
if they were addressing Dan Mulhall, they would say,
Best
"Oh, is
Dan."
lesser Dan around? Is underling Dan around?" You
I
know?
think it depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah. So
If it's my wife, she would probably call Dan Ozzi the better Dan.
Well, she knows you best.
It's true.
And she realizes what.
And then I realizes I'm the
It's just
worst.
a candy shell of just rotten.
There's no candy shell. It's just rotten to the core, baby.
You're just like that thing that Kyle MacLachlan coughed up in the new Twin Peaks reboot.
I haven't seen it, but if he coughed it up, it sounds disgusting.
It was disgusting and very Dan Mulhall-esque.
I figured it came out and it was like, I'm Hemus! That doesn't make sense on this podcast,
I know,
but
but our lawsuit is pending with David Lynch.
that's
for
true.
That.
That's exactly right.
Dan, so besides doing trivia and being a better version of Dan Mulhall, you've done so much. Last time you were on,
I've done so
you were
much.
plugging a book you wrote with Laura Jane Grace.
I re-listened to that episode today.
Oh,
it was really good. We talked about Star Wars the
It's
whole
less
time.
really
How's it
good,
shelf
Dan.
life? It holds up?
Yeah, I don't know. It's Star Wars, so it's pretty timeless.
It's pretty, it's a perennial, evergreen.
And you
they
guys,
say.
I totally forgot, but you guys gave her a Star Wars toy.
Yeah, well,
Star
Star
Wars.
Labs
And we
toy.
still have another one we're waiting to give out to a lucky listener.
Yes, we
Before the battery dies.
we are eventually going to put it on eBay, but we have not.
Yeah,
Go
maybe
back
maybe
and
we'll
listen
make
to
it
that
some kind of prize.
Yeah,
I don't know.
we'll see. Maybe we'll have a contest.
Good episode.
It was.
So you've done that. You're a writer for Noisy. You just interviewed Norm Macdonald.
Oh, yeah.
That was super cool.
Even though he was like, it was 12:30 my time, which puts it at about 9:30 his time. Clearly had just woken up.
Is he an LA guy?
I think so. Yeah,
That
yeah.
surprises.
I mean,
That's-
like when you can audibly hear that somebody has woken up,
Yeah.
that's bad.
Hello.
I mean,
is
he
this
was
my interview.
He was very nice, but I was clearly sleepy.
He seems. I don't know. He's one of my biggest idols, and I feel like if I met him, he would just be bored and disappointed. in me.
I don't think you want to meet your idol.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
He.
And
I
don't
would
know
just
that he would,
expect a low energy version of him. I don't
Yeah.
think he would be like a dick.
He turns it on for the
Right.
cameras, baby.
But that's the thing; he barely does.
That's true. Yeah,
You know?
his shtick is very laconic and not turned on.
Yeah.
Anyway, and what's most exciting is you just launched a podcast.
Yeah, baby.
Arrival podcast.
A podcast
It's-
about the film Arrival.
It's a podcast about the film Arrival.
I would actually listen to that. I
It's
love
called
that movie.
Dan Ozzi, Let's Get Silly. Such a good podcast.
That could easily be the name of this show. Dan Ozzi, let's get silly.
No, fortunately, you pose no threat to me and Dan whatsoever
It's a
because it's a music
music
podcast,
Yes.
and I know no
We
music.
talk
Yeah.
nerdy stuff about music.
What's it called?
It's called No Plus Ones, and I launched it this week. We put 2 episodes up this week. And I've got all that stuff that you guys were talking about. I've got a Patreon account. I've got a Twitter account. I don't have a Reddit.
Did one of your fans make a crossword?
We got one of those.
No. We've
Now
gotten,
who's the better Dan?
we've gotten a death threat. But
we
no,
haven't gotten
no.
a- we haven't
You
gotten
know
a
what?
death threat.
Guys, send us death threats.
No,
What's
I'm
wrong with
kidding.
you?
Yeah.
I would feel honored to get a death threat. But
I
no.
would also feel honored to get a death
We'll
threat.
post
We're in
Dan's
the-
actual legal address.
Yeah,
It's
please do.
Infancy stage right now. Literally first week.
No,
So-
and
so-
you're already off to a great start. They're great shows.
You're already guesting on this show, which
There you go, spreading the word.
We don't invite just anybody on this show.
Why? So I love the title "No Plus Ones" because it reminds me of a type of party invitation. Like, no, you can't bring anybody. No plus ones. What does that have to do with music? What am I missing?
You know, like if a lot of times if you're either putting on a show or if you're going to a show and you hit up the person who's doing it and you say, "Hey, can I get a +1?" It's like, no, you can't get a +1 actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Dan, how do people find this podcast? Do you just go into the internet
I
and
don't
type
know.
"No Plus Ones
iTunes
podcast"?
/No Plus Ones. I don't know. You can search it on iTunes. No plus
I googled "No Plus Ones." I didn't expect you to pop up, but you are the 5th result.
There you
Fifth.
go.
That's not bad.
That's not bad.
I hope to get to number 3 real soon.
We'll get there one day.
Yeah. What's number 1?
Number 1 is a question of how do I tell people no plus ones at my wedding?
You listen to a
You
podcast.
listen to Dan Ozzi's podcast, and that's how you find out.
It's a wedding advice podcast.
Yeah, we're a music /bridal
Yeah.
advice podcast mostly.
Nice. So your first 2 episodes that came out, what were you guys talking about? You just talk about tunes?
I would love to. I didn't come here to pitch my podcast.
Well,
I'm
All
a big
right,
fan
then,
of the
never
show.
mind.
Real quick, if we were on your show, what's like a question you would ask us about music?
Who are you, and what are you doing here?
That's 2 questions, but we'll allow it.
No, it's sort of a serialized podcast. We do like for a month we'll do one topic, and
Oh,
every
sounds
week
familiar.
and every week we'll do we'll do a different guest on this one topic. The first one is called Reunion Show, and we're talking about why bands reunite. The first one we had the drummer of this band Refused on, who got back together, and then we talked to this woman who she books a festival and she's got a lot of bands to reunite. On Tuesday, breaking the news here first. You heard it here.
Exclusive for 90
We're
PP.
talking to this guy Jordan. He was in a band called the Blood Brothers, and they also
I love the Blood Brothers.
did a reunion, but they didn't do like full like reunion album. They just did some shows, and yeah,
That makes me feel old that the shows I was going to in college are now
Have
like when I think
gone
of
so-
reunion,
yeah.
I think of like Rolling Stones and the
Yeah.
Who, and like now these
yeah.
like my
they were
favorite bands.
away for 7 years, which is I guess enough for
That's forever in preteen times.
Well, I remember there were a few bands I was really into in high school and college, like
Coming back around.
like Game Face, and Game Face was already around for like 11 years,
Yeah.
but they were like 30.
Yeah.
But now that was like 16, 17 years ago. So they've literally been a band for 35 years on and off. And like, that's
God.
that's insane.
all coming back around.
I feel old.
25 years. 28 years. Yeah, whatever.
Guys, all of this nostalgia is making me feel very old.
You're-
Let's get to the 90s topics.
Yes, baby.
That was 18 years ago.
Yep.
God, some of my new students were born like in the 2000s. Like,
Yeah, no, it's terrifying to think
like
about.
they were born when Unbreakable was out in theaters.
Literally, they were all born in a movie theater showing the film Unbreakable.
It was a Guinness World Record event.
That
and
was the twist. is
That's
that
why so many
children were
kids. That's
born.
why so many 18-year-olds are named Mr. Glass.
That's right. It's the most popular name for 18-year-olds today.
So
Anyway.
Dan, the
So
better.
Jack and Dan,
Dan,
yeah,
the-
yeah.
Dan.
Yes, Jack. You rang.
Say it doesn't work.
It doesn't. We're both vain.
I guess I can do like Terry Gross, our arch rival, and just call you both by your first name and last name every 5 minutes.
Like Terry Gross.
Yeah,
You call her Terry Gross.
we do. Tear.
Not Terry didn't catch on, actually. Believe it or not.
Triceratops.
Oh, boy. Moving on. Dan, how are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. We just had Taco Bell.
We did just have Taco Bell, so it's going to be a fun
It's a
time here
plug.
tonight.
Give me money.
There you go.
I ate a lot
$5
of
from Taco Bell.
Red Velvet Oreos.
Yes. Jack, we
Boom,
invited
that's
you to go to
plug number
Taco
2.
Bell, and you were like, I don't want to eat
Bell's
Taco
gross.
Bell.
Taco Bell's
So
disgusting.
instead, you ate you ate an entire sleeve of Oreos for dinner, red velvet Oreos.
It was the only thing in the fridge.
Jeez, we would have picked you up. So whatever.
I
It's
don't
fine.
like Taco Bell. It's disgusting.
The moment has passed.
The moment has passed, indeed.
I like tacos.
Dan, we are so happy that you are here today. As our guest, it is your right to either choose our first 90s topic or you can go into the random topic generator where listeners go to weepodcast.com or 90spercentile.com to go to the random topic generator and submit 90s topics. What do you want to do?
Oh, that mystery box sounds mighty tempting,
sure
man.
does.
But
Box.
The box.
I've had a topic that I've wanted to bring on this show for a while. Now, I
Ooh.
assume this is
You're a longtime fan.
This is a 2-hour episode because it's a big topic.
Okay, it can be.
If
Jack, stop the clock.
there's 50 minutes and 52 seconds, and if we were traveling around a
Yeah,
smaller
it's a-
orbit, right,
Yeah,
then it would be 2
it's
hours.
something
If
like that.
tonight
Faster
was
orbit.
a set your clocks back kind of night,
Sure.
we could
Then
do
we,
2 hours.
then we could go all night, baby.
If we were traveling around that moon from Interstellar,
right.
we could do a 17-year podcast.
Interstellar wasn't a good movie.
It's a great movie,
I
and
didn't
you're
care
wrong.
for it. It's not good.
It's a great movie.
As many people have said, roll to the side. Roll
Yeah.
to the side instead of getting crushed by the giant wheel.
Well, that was
Oh,
Prometheus.
that was Prometheus.
Yeah.
Wait, which one was Interstellar?
Interstellar is the Matthew McConaughey one with Christopher Nolan did.
They go to space. It's
And-
actually not interstellar; it's intergalactic. But he didn't call it that because it sounded like a Beastie Boys.
It does.
There's been too many
lot of
space,
space movies.
Too many. I'm thinking
I
of
see this
Arrival,
movie, Space Wars.
Space Jam.
Space Jam. I
Space
saw
Jam's a
Space
great
Jam.
space movie.
How's that not come up in this podcast?
It
I am
hasn't yet. Is that
surprised,
your topic,
yeah.
Dan? Do you want
No.
to talk Space Jam?
My topic tonight is Space Jam 2.
Oh,
The
Oh,
LeBron
shit.
James
Yeah.
in development hell.
No, I would like to talk about... Okay, so I just want to say that Dan and I have been friends for 20...
Probably
more
around
than 20 years.
More than 20 years.
Like
Yeah, more than
in fact.
20
game face
Possibly
language.
like 25 years of
25
friendship
years.
at this point,
And
Dan.
I feel like there's 3 things that have bonded us together
Okay.
in our friendship. One,
All the
the
sex
fact
you
that
have.
our parents just made us be friends.
Yes,
Like they didn't
that
give
was
us
it. That was the first thing. I was like, I guess I'm stuck with you.
Our parents are friends and we didn't really have a choice.
Yeah, that's-
So that
that's
was-
accurate.
That was number 1. Number 2, obviously, The Simpsons.
Yes, which we monetized into a lucrative side business.
Yes. And then our parents said we were wasting our time. And number 3 is the cult 90s comedy sketch show The State on MTV.
Oh, all right.
And I would like to talk about our parents making us hang out.
All right, our topic is our parents.
No, I want
Great.
to talk about The State. It's such a big topic, and
Yeah.
one of like 5 things in the world, sadly, that I have like an above average knowledge of.
Yeah, definitely. So if you don't know what The State is, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was true of many of our listeners, it was a sketch comedy show on MTV. I think it started in 93. I want to say it ran from 93 to 95 or
Can look it
96.
up.
I could, but I'd rather just go off the top of my head.
I think it went later
I know
than
the
that.
group,
Yeah?
the
I
state.
think it was more 94 to 98.
No, it was only
No.
for like a year, right?
No,
A year or
no,
two?
4 seasons.
All right,
4
now,
seasons.
Now we're going to have to check it out. I'll look it up.
I know
but-
they started out as a sketch group at my alma mater.
The new group.
Tish.
Yes.
It was 11 of them, and they all went to Tish at the same time. And
That
that's
was
how
it,
they
right?
met.
The new group?
The new group is what they
Yeah.
were called, yeah.
I've only seen it on bootleg, like old, really staticky
Which is the best
VHS
way to see it.
tapes.
Nowadays, it is
Because
the best way to
Dan
see it.
and I, actually, now that this is all coming back to me too,
Yeah.
we waited for years for the DVD to come
Yeah.
out. And when it did come out, we bought it and got Taco Bell.
Yes.
Nothing changes.
We watched the entire series,
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
in one day.
And then you recorded a podcast about it.
Yeah. we
But that
did,
was
and
one of
it's
those.
today.
That was one of those things that, like, for years they
It
would
was
have,
the white
like,
whale.
whenever David Wayne, who is one of the members of the state,
By the way, I just have to say 93 to 95, which I think
fuck.
is what Dan said.
Yeah,
Dan
right.
meaning me. Dan the Great.
but,
Continue.
it was one of those things where whenever David Wayne was taking questions from people in any
Yeah.
form, people would be like, "When's the DVD coming out?"
Yeah.
and it was just like years, and they kept saying, "We can't get the music licensing. We can't." That's what's holding it up, the music licensing.
Right.
They have it done. We can't get the music because
Yeah.
they use, like, not only was their comedy sort of cutting edge alterna
Gen X.
90
Gen
X,
Xer, yeah.
but the music they used, like, Elastica and Smashing
Yeah,
Pumpkins.
Well, it was on music television,
Breeders.
right?
Yeah, it was on MTV, and I believe at the time MTV had a blanket music license where if there was a video that they showed on MTV, they could use the music in their shows.
Oh, that's cool.
So they were able to use all these songs, and a lot of them made the skit.
Yeah, and the best example is Cannonball, and there's
Yeah.
a skit where Michael Ian Black doesn't wear pants, and they use Cannonball, and it's like synonymous with the skit. And
Right.
on the DVD, it's
On the
Oh, so
absolutely
the DVD they didn't get the
No,
music
They
rights.
had to strip all of the popular music out.
They
and
did
there's-
a Quantum Leap Wonder Years situation.
did. Sound-alikes.
They had sound-alikes that the music coordinator on the show, or the guy who did the theme song, like he recorded sound-alike music. It's not exactly the same.
It's just, it can't be.
No, it
unless
can't.
you hear that. It's just not gonna. It's not gonna.
Instead, I think it was like.
Yeah, he tried. You know, he did the best he
did,
could.
yeah, it's-
Nothing against that fella
It's
if
not.
he's listening.
It's not
What's
bad.
What's funny is me and Dan the Mole.
I'll
Dan
take
the
it.
Mulhole.
That's my middle
finally
name.
Kid Dan. And no, we had a sketch group in high school and we wrote sketches.
Yeah.
And at one point I had the idea, I was like, why don't we try to get on MTV?
Yeah.
So I started doing.
It worked for the
so I
state. That's how they got
So I
there.
started writing sketches based around popular songs at the time.
Yes.
Like I had "Oops, I Did It Again," the sketch. And
Yes.
it never worked out. We didn't get on MTV.
But that's what happened to the state, and that's why it was so amazing. Was because they were like right out of college,
Yeah,
and
they
MTV
were like
just
21,
handed them the
22 years
keys.
old, yeah.
And it had this real feel of like kids running the store, punk, like anything goes, anarchic humor.
Yeah,
you know, and,
very Monty Python-esque. All of the skits were kind of connected, very, very loosely. Very Mr. Show and Monty Python did the same thing. And we should say that if you've never seen the state, you've probably seen at least one person who was on the state.
For sure.
Kind of like an
Because-
anomaly.
but that's-
There's 11 of them. Nearly
Yeah.
every single one has. It took a while.
I've
but they've all become
followed
very famous.
their
Yeah.
career, which is why I wanted to talk about this topic. Is because it's not just within the show. I've followed their careers
Same,
since
yeah.
we were 13.
Yeah, I mean, we were big fans of pretty much everyone on the show, and a lot. Thomas Lennon and Ben Garant are like huge writers now. Thomas
Make
Lennon's
huge
on
movies. They
The
did
Odd
the
Couple.
Night at the Museum
Night at the
movie.
Museum.
They
They
were
wrote all
probably
of
the
those.
first to break out with Viva Variety at Post State, right?
Yeah, but that
Yes,
didn't, I wouldn't call
but
Viva Variety breaking
was
out.
not a hit.
But it was popular.
They've done.
It was
these,
popular-ish.
if you follow these guys, it's like rooting for the Mets. It's like
Yeah.
a lot of projects that just you want to succeed. And
Yeah.
I mean, Stella, which was on, got a shot at doing a Comedy Central show, which is
Amazing if you can find
yeah,
it.
three of the guys, Michael E.
Yeah.
Black, Michael Showalter, David Wayne, had this troupe, this deadpan humor comedy troupe,
Yeah.
vaudevillian in a way, like
Yes.
got a shot at Comedy Central, and it pretty much ended their momentum that they had because it was lasted for one season and then was canceled.
it was a phenomenal show.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
There's one. I was just thinking about it on the train here. There's one
Yeah.
scene where they were wearing blackface.
There is.
And Michael Ian Black.
That's not what I jump to when I say it's phenomenal.
That's why you love it so much.
No.
But Michael Ian Black, we were just talking about, has a podcast.
Michael Ian
Blackface.
Blackface.
And we were talking.
Yeah.
Fucking idiots are high fiving over blackface.
Let's high five over a high
Fucking
five.
idiot.
Yeah.
Hey,
A pun about blackface. No,
I just learned how to do a perfect high five. I never heard this. You look at the
stare at the
person's,
person's elbow, yeah.
I never heard of that, and it works.
Let's do it again. Bam.
Dan,
Bam!
Dan, you want to get in on this?
You want a high five, Dan?
I don't.
I was talking to that Dan.
Most of those high five sounds are not coming from me.
But yeah,
Just
pretty much everyone in the
really-
state, like they have gone on to do really, really cool things.
But see, that's why I said it took a while, because I don't even
Yeah.
think Stella would have gotten that break on Comedy Central if Wet Hot
No.
American Summer didn't become a cult hit.
So
Yeah.
that's probably the
That's-
thing most people would know.
That-
American
Many
Besides
of them,
Reno,
Wayne and
that's right, Reno 911.
Showalter wrote and directed Wet
right.
Hot.
I would say the two of David Wayne especially is like a big time director
Yeah,
these
yeah.
days. You know, he did Role Models was probably his biggest movie. Wet Hot American Summer was a cult hit that probably everyone's seen now.
And Showalter just had success with My Name is Doris.
Yeah, and he also has, I really want to see The Big Sick, Kumail Nanjiani's movie. He directed that. So, he's doing well
I
as
just
like
saw
an
the trailer
indie
for that.
guy.
It looked like such a lame rom-com.
Oh, really? I'm excited for it.
Also they did, speaking of rom-coms, They Came Together.
That's
which is
an
a
amazing movie.
fucking spot-on rom-com
You could say that again,
satire. Jeez Louise.
Yeah,
If
that's a great
if that's
movie.
still
You've
on
not seen
Netflix, I highly recommend it. It's not as good as Wet Hot, but it's so good.
It's up there.
It's very good.
Who else in the state? I mean, Thomas Lennon also
So
had
it broke
Ken
Everyone
Marino
on
did Party Down, and he's on
Yeah.
some new show now. And he was on a movie that I desperately wanted to watch on Netflix, and you told me that I should not at any...
Oh, yeah.
Milo.
Oh, Milo. It's about a bad Milo, it's called. It was
Tell
about,
people what this is about, because I almost didn't believe you when you said it.
He has a demon that lives in his ass, or it's an alien maybe, and it like...
Did he eat a lot of red velvet Oreos?
Maybe he did. I don't remember. I just remember it was like awful, like unwatchable bad. So that's not what I like.
He
Ken
and
Marino
Michael Ian
for.
Black also played demons on that CW show.
Supernatural?
Scorcher. There was
Reaper.
Reaper.
Yeah. They did. Yes,
He was also
that was a good
Michael
show
Ian Black
too.
was on Ed. He's on the Jim Gaffigan show.
Yeah.
He was the first big breakout
If
star.
you liked The State, it's been so funny to watch entertainment media over the last 20 years, because
Yeah.
you just randomly see the actors pop up, and to most people it's probably not a big deal, but you're like, oh shit, it's Michael Ian Black, he's on
Yeah,
fucking
a lot of people are like, oh, it's that guy from Ed, I guess.
And a lot
Right.
of behind the scenes stuff too, like you said,
Yeah.
screenwriting, but also directing. One of them, one of the performers, never acted again, but he directed and was the cameraman for most of the Reno 911 episodes.
Michael Patrick Jan.
That's probably Michael
Yeah,
Patrick
yeah.
Jan. Yeah, he directed Drop
Him
Dead Gorgeous.
and
he directed
Todd
on TV.
Holoubek is the one that's sort of I don't know what Holoubek
Todd
is doing.
Holoubek, I think, dropped out of show business, so he's the one that most people would not.
The
have
one
heard.
that got away.
The one that got away.
I think he even dropped out of the state towards the end.
He did. He didn't. So the state was on MTV, and
He
then they
succeeded.
But he was.
I didn't look at his elbow.
For the record, that was a
elbow.
really shitty high
It
five.
was.
We didn't look at
was.
each other's elbows.
You deserved that.
I even hesitated, as you might notice, because I was like, I don't know if
That's
this
a
deserves
great-
a high
that was
five.
a great joke.
I don't know about this.
They succeeded, like the Civil War.
All right.
Hey!
Hey! No, the state was on MTV, and then they tried to make a jump to CBS.
Oh, yeah.
And they were going to be like CBS's answer to Saturday Night
And
Live.
it just fucking ended the show.
And it died a
Yeah,
horrible
yeah,
death.
one episode.
Yeah, they did one episode that they really didn't even promote, and it just did not do
And
well.
it was,
and that was
it
it.
wasn't a bad. It was just on par for what the state was doing. It
is-
wasn't bad. It was just the state.
You know,
and
Dan,
it didn't
and
work on prime time.
CBS is literally the oldest network.
Yeah,
the oldest
yeah.
viewing network.
And,
CBS
and then
was
they
not
hire.
right.
You know, it's funny because like you said, it's the oldest network, and they hire these like 24-year-old like punks basically to fucking you know, and it just didn't work. It worked beautifully on MTV.
Yeah, I mean the CBS thing is on YouTube, and I had never seen it until a couple of months ago. I read
That's
the.
not true.
I hadn't. I'd never seen it
It's
before.
fucking. It's
No.
on the. What are you talking about?
The CBS special?
Yeah.
That's not anywhere, man. That's unreleased. It's on YouTube though. You can watch it.
No, we had it on VHS. Remember?
I never saw it. I 100% never saw it.
we had the same VHS
No,
tape.
I didn't have that. I'm telling you, I'd never seen it until a couple of months ago because I read
Remember,
the book.
we also had skits and stickers. Stickers
yeah,
not
I
included.
do remember that. That was good. That was the actual MTV license.
So much of it's
tape.
tied into the book you mentioned. I have a great, just tied into my. This show is so ingrained in who I am in a weird way.
Sure.
But when I was 13, I think you and I did the same thing. Actually, our dads worked in the court system.
Right, our dad
And-
is the same person. We're brothers.
Yeah, and they offered a scholarship. Did you take this too, or no? It was just me.
I don't know.
Okay.
This sounds vaguely
In
familiar.
the 7th or 8th grade, yeah, 8th grade it was. Every year the 8th graders like went to Six Flags, and it was
Okay.
the fucking thing that like, oh, everybody like you work your whole grade school to go to Six Flags.
Sure.
When I got to the 8th grade, the grade before us fucked up. They did something that they shouldn't have been fucking around doing at Six Flags. No more Six Flags trips.
Oh, what a bunch of assholes.
It was medieval times. They went to medieval times instead.
Okay.
So I was set to go to
not as good of a place, but
I
still
was
fun.
set to go to medieval times, but my dad, his work offered this scholarship where if you took a test and then you scored in the top 3, you would get money for high school.
Okay.
So my dad made me take the test. It was on the fucking day that they went to medieval times.
Naturally.
I'm not a great test taker, but I can say I don't think I got a single question wrong. It was like
Wow.
I remember putting my pencil down and just like waiting like an hour for other kids to finish.
Did you get the scholarship?
Yeah, I got first fucking prize and I got the
Nice,
scholarship,
good for
which
you.
is great. But I never got to go to Medieval Times until you and I went when I turned 30.
Yes.
But afterwards, my dad picked me up from the test and he's like, it sucks you missed Medieval Times. What do you want to do? And we went to Barnes & Noble, and the state book had just come out.
Yeah.
And I bought it.
State by state with the
And
state.
it fucking changed my life
Yeah,
as
that's a great book.
writer. And it's like worth like a lot of money on eBay now.
So now we could be talking in some other universe. We'd be talking about medieval times right now, and you would have never even heard of the state.
I would have become a knight. I would have been
be
the
the Green
Green Knight.
Knight,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great book. I think they actually did put it back into print.
Well,
like a
I can
limited
imagine
run,
you
I
probably
think.
get it on Kindle or something, right?
I don't
It had a lot
know.
of like illustrations, so maybe
It had a lot of photos and stuff, and there were secret satanic messages pages just
But this
sprinkled
State
throughout
by
the
State
book.
with the State was the name of the book, and it was
Yeah.
like a mock travel guide. Like they went around the country,
Right.
Which you could tell like they maybe did some of it.
They probably wrote all of it in New York.
and it was fucking. It was just like like the way the show was, anything goes.
Yeah, no, it was a great book. But when I brought up the book before, I actually meant the History of the State book that came out
right.
last year and is probably the most comprehensive book about a television
Exhaustive.
show that I've ever read.
What is it, like 600
It's
pages?
about 600 pages, and it talks about every single thing that happened with the state.
Is it oral history?
Yeah, it is.
Nice.
So everyone's interviewed in it. Everyone has, they're all comments.
Even that guy you were talking about? That's
Even
not-
Todd
that
Holobeck?
guy I was talking about. Yeah, even Todd Holobeck. What is the actual title of that book? I think it's
Are you sure he
it's the
dropped
Union
out?
of the State. That's what it's called.
I feel like every once in a while I see somebody, I'm like, who's this guy? And I look it up, and it's like, oh, it's like one of those lesser known state people.
No,
Well, there was
I mean,
Carrie Kenny, who we haven't
Carrie
mentioned, was the
she's
sole
big.
female.
She's the
in it.
women.
Yeah,
She's
no,
the women of the
she's
group.
done
It was
very well for
that's
herself.
another thing that was so funny about the show is they had one woman on the troupe, but
Yeah.
would often rely on men to cross dress,
Yes.
even when it wasn't. Even when they could have had Carrie in her role,
Right. Well, because sometimes they looked really good as women.
It
Just
was
like the
funny.
kids in the hall. Dave Foley makes an attractive woman.
They really liked doing it. I think like they were
Yeah.
really funny as women because they would
Yeah.
just overplay it.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's too many women in comedy. We need more men.
Rhonda.
Oh, Joe Latrulio, another great
Latrulio?
guy from the state.
Have
Now
we
he's
hit
on
everybody?
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, which is he's hilarious.
He's
on it, too.
fantastic, and you'd know him from a bunch of movies. Really
He
quick.
was in Superbad.
He was in Superbad, but really quick story. My wife and I we were on our honeymoon in Italy. We were in Rome, and we went to a museum, and we were looking at all these sculptures, like busts from not medieval
You're
times.
a married man, Dan.
I was looking at, hey, bro, you go to Italy, you check out the busts. But it was one from Greco-Roman times. And my wife is just like, that one looks like that guy. And I'm like, you have to be a little bit more specific than that. And it took her a while, but finally we figured out that she meant Joe Latrulio. And you know
did
what? It did look like him.
You say Trulio, not Truglio?
Joe
Trulio.
Latrulio. That's how he says it, I believe.
Speaking of state spottings,
Yeah.
Dan, I went to see Stella a bunch of times.
Sure.
And so I've seen like in person, I've seen Showalter, Michael Ian Black, and David Wayne.
Right, in a comedy setting.
Yes,
In a live comedy.
I sat next to Showalter once at a
Okay.
comedy show.
Very nice.
He looked at his hair a lot in the mirror. But
Breaking news!
You
Michael Showalter is vain about his hair.
You always say that you passed Kevin Allison, who lives in New York, and I've never seen, who
Yes.
is the redheaded one.
Yes,
I
he
think
does-
we've covered everybody now.
I think we may have covered everybody now, but he is a big improv teacher. He hosts the podcast Risk, right?
yeah.
Which is much more successful than this show, but don't
I've
listen to it.
Never passed him, but I saw him last night in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And actually, as I say that, I'm just realizing that I did one time pass him in the train. so
Nice.
a second.
How many state stars have you seen,
Yeah.
Jack?
Matt
All right.
David Foley.
I saw Scott Thompson once.
I would love, since it's not a 90s topic, this might be the best chance we have to talk about it, but we should talk about Wet Hot. And we should also talk about
Why
first.
Not is a 90s topic. Didn't it come out in 99?
I believe it
Or
came
was
out
it
in
2001?
2000.
2001.
Look it up.
That's just after the 90s.
I didn't see it until
But
college,
it was being
but-
made. If you listen
was
to
being made
if you
in the
listen to
90s.
Michael Showalter on Michael Ian Black's How to Be Amazing podcast.
Yeah, 2001 actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
He did a really great episode about how he wrote that show and he was so passionate about his vision for it.
Yeah.
That he was like, if I don't get funding for this, or I'm going to just shoot it in my backyard. I'll play every character.
And
if
he
I
was
have
right
to.
there, because it really is like a perfect comedy.
It's a fantastic movie.
He
I'd
was-
imagine a lot of our audience has
He
seen
was
it, but if you haven't-
studying like group group films, like, because it has that dynamic where it's like an ensemble cast and
Yeah,
it all
big
comes together.
cast. Yep.
He was like studying films like that, like
Yeah.
how those, and it worked so well. And the series too.
The series is
great
amazing.
accompanying-
They did a reboot on Netflix,
Yeah.
as is the style.
A prequel series where everyone is in real life,
Older.
15
In their
years
40s,
older,
yeah.
but it's supposed to be a prequel to the actual movie. So, yeah.
And there's another season coming too.
Yeah,
That
I
will
think
be
so.
a
So
sequel.
that'll be awesome. But I just want to really quickly mention before we could talk about Wet Hot, but just while we're on the state, it's on Hulu, so you can watch
is
it
it?
Oh, I didn't know
pretty
that.
easily. Yeah. It's the DVD's been out for 8 years now.
But I brought it up also, and I
But it's
wanted
on
to
Hulu.
talk about it on the
Yeah.
podcast because it's such a language that you and I speak.
Yes.
We would do the taco skit until people wanted to murder us.
Yes, so there is a pretty
Man,
famous
there's a lot
skit.
of tacos in your
Yeah,
relationship.
Yeah, there really is. There's a fairly famous skit between Kevin Allison and Michael Ian Black where Kevin Allison plays a mailman who just delivers tacos to people instead of the mail.
Unexplained.
And they have this very, very dry, serious conversation about wanting him to stop delivering tacos, start delivering the mail, even though the tacos are the best tacos
It's
he's
just
ever
that
had.
if I had to choose between the tacos or the mail, I'd have to choose the mail.
Great tacos today, Jake. It's a good skit, and that one's without music, so that holds up. You can watch it on Hulu. But yeah, I mean, it was a very formative show. I remember when I was a kid, and by kid I mean like 7th or 8th grade. I had a red JanSport backpack, and people used to write on like the leathery bottom of the backpack, and they would write like football teams. And I didn't watch football, and I still don't, and I don't care about that. So I wrote all the
Green
TV
Day.
shows that I liked. So I had
That's so you.
I had a backpack that said The Simpsons, The State, Seinfeld.
Just kid walking around like, I love this Jewish sitcom.
I got beat up a lot.
Did you?
No, not really. Just made a good button for the story. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I love that the state have all thrived. I hope
I still
that
think Reno 911 is one of the funniest
Yeah,
shows
we didn't really.
ever.
I mean, Reno's a '90s topic for sure, so I'm sure it's in the.
It's not 90s.
It has to be.
2000s. No, it's post.
What are you talking about? I'm looking it up.
No.
I'm looking it up. Dan
I
was
had
probably
something.
We
right.
watched it in college. Jack was right. I said
2003 to 2009.
yeah, 2003.
They've also-
early 90s.
Yeah,
That's pretty early '90s.
The
guys.
edge of the 90s is what we'll call it. But they also, aside from Stella, right after Stella, Michael Ian Black and Michael Showalter got a chance at a show on Comedy Central called Michael and Michael Have Issues, which I think is
Was a pretty good show.
I think it's of the weakest things that they've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan.
And I could solve that right off the bat. They had it was a show where they had a live audience thing. They had
Yeah. They had
a
sketches.
sketch,
Yeah.
and then they also had
Behind the scenes of the sketch show. It
The,
was too
the live
much.
show
It was
had to
basically
go.
doing Larry
Yeah.
Sanders.
Yeah,
but,
if you could have cut the live show, it was just too much.
But when
Yeah.
the two of them were together, the scenes were amazing.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Great stuff came out of that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but I believe we both were in the filming for the pilot
Oh,
episode of Michael and
fuck.
Michael Have
Yeah, that's
Issues.
right.
Yeah,
I
we were in
totally
the,
forgot
we were
about
in the
that.
audience.
Because nobody
So
else
you
wanted to
can
go.
see us
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you watch the show.
Oh,
Probably
yeah.
not. I don't
Did
think
you
we're actually
name
in
your
it.
dog after that terrible movie, The Baxter?
No, I named
Oh,
it.
you named it after
It was after
Anchorman.
Anchorman. Yeah.
Baxter was not a bad. I went to the
Baxter's
the
a
screening
good
of that
movie.
movie.
I
No,
like
it's
that
not.
movie.
It's a bad movie.
No, that's a good movie if you like
It's a bad movie.
rom coms.
We there was
Hey, fuck
also
you, Jack. High
You know-
five, Dan.
I don't know.
You pulled away the
See
five.
what
I hit you in the face.
I was like, you know what?
You
Midway
see who
through,
your true friends are now.
All right, high five, Jack.
No.
God damn.
High
now
five,
you
Dan.
have no one to high five.
Hey, I got a high five with other Dan. He's
I
better
did not
Dan.
get into that high five.
Dan is now Dan the High Fiver.
There was.
That's all I do is high five people
No,
all day, every
that's
day.
not your
It's
moniker.
funny because we're talking about all these things that you can go and watch Wet Hot and Reno 911
Yeah.
and Stella and all these things that got a shot. But I think if you ask them, they would joke that their career has just been one long like cancellation.
Yeah.
But there was one thing that never made it to air that I also went to the taping of.
Yeah.
I don't want to we've all been off with years, so I'm going to say around the year 2000. Or
Okay, that's a safe bet.
Early 80s.
I
Yeah.
went to a taping of a thing called Soundtracks Live,
Okay.
which was a thing that I believe David Wayne spearheaded, and it was kind of like a Broadway show in that they reenacted famous, like not a whole movie, but they did like a capsule of a movie where they did like the best scenes. Like,
Yeah.
so the one that I went to was Pretty in Pink. They
Okay.
did like a lot of John Hughes movies, and this was a thing that was going on, and I think it was a thing that VH1 was like, oh, let's film a test episode, and it just they
So
never
wait,
aired
what
it.
were they actually doing? They
It
were
was
watching Pretty
so
in Pink?
funny. No. They acted it out.
Oh, I
so
see.
in Pretty in Pink, Molly Ringwald was played by A.D. Miles, who is the man from Wet Hot who works in the kitchen with Gene.
Also the head
Yeah.
writer of Jimmy
Fallon.
Fallon.
I think he's
just
still
quit.
there. Oh yeah, he's gone. Okay.
And Paul Rudd was in it.
Yeah.
But his role was he was just the janitor of the stage. Like
Okay.
after every scene, he would come and just like sweep angrily, like his character in Wet Hot, kind of, you know.
And
Nice,
they,
nice.
they introduced Paul Rudd as a comedian. He wasn't a comic actor before.
Yeah, I mean, he
I
was
guess
in
Friends.
Clueless, my friend.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he was very funny as Josh.
But Ken Marino played the Matt Dillon character, like the hunk
Yeah,
guy.
sure.
And he would just come out every.
He's my favorite out of the 11,
He would
by the
come
way.
out in every scene and have his hands in his pockets, and everybody would be like, "Woo!" And he would just be like, "I'm just a sensitive guy with my hands in my pockets." And every once in a while, he would just pull out a full teddy bear and like throw it into the audience.
That's awesome.
It was great. It never made it to air though.
that's a
I
bummer.
watched for it.
It sounds cool. I wonder.
Favorite members of the state.
Oh man, I gotta go Michael Ian Black.
Yeah,
He's
I
always
mean,
been my
I
favorite.
He's a
can't stand
real-
him.
Really?
Yeah, I just
he's got
wanna
his-
slap him around.
His TV personality persona.
This guy's a real Mark Maron over
That's
here,
right.
who also had a beef with Michael Ian Black.
I mean, I'm sure he's fine. I just
Did you ever
just-
read the Gothamist interview?
No.
So those two don't get along. Michael Ian Black and Mark Maron, I
Yeah.
think, resented the state's success. He didn't get it. He's since said.
Oh, jeez.
But so one time, Gothamist set up an interview with Mark Maron, and they didn't tell him that it was going to be Michael Ian Black doing it. Oh God! So if you like read the first like line of it, it's just like, "Hey, is this Mark?" It's like, "Yeah." It's like, "This is Michael Ian Black from Gothamist," and Mark's just like, "Are you serious right now?" And he's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "All right, let's do this."
I'm looking this up because
Yeah,
I
it's
have
great.
to see
It's
this.
great.
From April of
I
2013.
think Ken Marino's my favorite. I love Joe Latrulio and everything, but I have
Marino's
I have a
amazing on
soft spot
Party
for
Down.
Thomas Lennon.
Thomas Lennon's probably my number two.
He's
Actually,
he's the one that didn't belong in the state. Well, he did because
Well-
he did such subversive things, but he's just like a guy who would be on a beer commercial ad, which is how they used him very frequently.
Well, yeah.
He's just got a nice voice and he presents well.
Yeah.
And
if you don't know who we're talking about, it's Dangle from Reno 911.
yeah, the shorts guy.
Yeah.
And
but
he plays a lot of effeminate characters.
He does.
does.
He's played a lot of gay
He's
characters.
playing the fussy odd couple
There's
character.
Right,
this
he's
skit
Felix
that
on The
Dan
Odd
and I
Couple.
have been doing a lot lately where
Yeah.
he auditioned for a beer commercial and he would just be like, when I'm thirsty, I reach for the cool, refreshing taste of "ow, my butt," and they'd be like, "Are
And
you
you're like,
okay?"
"Are you okay?" And it's
he's
just
like,
like, "Oh yeah,
"Oh,
I'm just trying it," you know.
And then he would just
amazing
devolved
skit.
into him just being like, "No, I like the beer. The beer's my mommy.
It's a good skit.
you like
yeah.
the beer,
But it's not,
your
your, mommy.
mommy."
Yeah, Tom Lennon. I mean, I feel like he looks the most normal.
Yes,
if
that's
that
what
makes
I'm saying.
sense. And he's
because if you look back,
Yeah.
Ben Garant, I feel like I've said this word 3 times already, but
Yeah.
Ben Garant was a straight up like punk kid who like went to CBGBs and he had
Right.
like a shaved head and piercing and he just like looked intense.
Yeah.
And then you had Tom Lennon who's just like blazer,
He
tweed
looked,
blazer.
he
they're-
looked
and
like
they're
a
one of
guy
the
who'd be at
closest
the opera.
pairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're like very, very close friends and co-writers and
He was,
collaborators.
he was
that was
junior.
my first mention of Ben Garant. In case
Yeah.
he was listening to the podcast, but like they said they mentioned all of them.
I
but
know.
I
Well,
don't-
we
we
brought
mentioned
up.
him before, 'cause I
Okay.
mentioned them as
He-
a team.
He was junior in Reno 911, and he's a screenwriter. They've written they write a lot of big
they've written
blockbusters.
they
dozens
wrote
and
a
dozens
book
of movies.
about how to write movies.
They did,
Night
writing
at the
movies
Museum and
for
The
fun and profit.
Pacifier and
Yeah, Herbie Fully Loaded, famously,
yeah.
that famous hit.
like they basically that's what they their bread and butter is writing these
know
big epic
it's-
blockbusters.
and I think that's so impressive to have this sense of humor that's subversive and weird, like the state is, and like a lot of the projects they've done. But also, they're just like, oh, but we know how to make comedy that people like, and we
Yeah.
can do it on the side and make a lot of money off of that. And I think that's really fucking cool.
Yeah.
like because the masses
That's what I'm trying to
aren't gonna fucking watch the state. You know what I mean? Like it's
Right, but
the
it-
masses watch Night at the Museum.
Well, but here's the thing: is that it was a cult hit, even though MTV was huge back in the early '90s. Like all the little
we
kids
should-
were
we should-
watching MTV.
2003?
Yeah, 2003.
We should mention also too that this was the time. It was in the same block that you would see Beavis and Butthead,
Right.
And
Syphil and
Singled
Ollie.
out.
Singled out, and the Max,
The
and,
Ma-
and
I fucking
and
love
the
the
Head,
Max.
and those shows.
Guys, if you haven't submitted the Max as a
Yeah,
topic,
yeah.
please do so. I have a lot
Well,
to talk
I would like
about.
to talk about the Head instead of the
it.
Max.
The Head was not my favorite.
The
I
Max
did
was a
love the-
show that I just pretended I understood at
Are
12
we just going
years
to talk
old.
about the Max because I own the whole comic book series and the DVD series?
Wow.
I don't know what the Max
Good
is.
stuff. It's
Really?
about a big purple superhero who's a homeless guy
The
who
Max
lives
is
in two worlds.
Funny because they
I'm loving this brief jaunt into the Max.
I remember the commercial for the Max where they used 9 Inch Nails, the end 2 minutes of 9 Inch Nails Closer. That's like, dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun. And they use that in that and White Zombies, Astro Creep. They use in every fucking commercial from 1993 to 1995.
Yeah.
For
The
every
glory years
show,
of MTV.
yeah. But there was like those
Like
two
Jack
shows.
is like turned away, and he looks like a sad boy. He's like, "Well, I don't know anything about the Max."
No, I'm getting comfortable.
Oh, all
Okay.
right, get
Yeah.
comfortable, buddy.
Settle in. We got 22 more
You want a high
minutes on this
five?
thing.
You want a high five?
No,
All
you're
right.
too far away now.
Ah, you son of a bitch. But yeah, let's bring it back to the state. I do want to. I love talking about the Max, but that's not our topic. The state was on in the early '90s. Like you said, it was next to all these great shows, and I feel like it never got its due. But it was a cult hit, and people like us who are now nerds, and
Grown-up nerds.
grown-ups, nerds. Like they have now had a really long shadow, I guess, because kind of. This sounds really pretentious, and it's not exactly what I mean, but people like us have kept the flame of the state going.
sure.
Dan.
I
I
follow
honestly
their
don't
project.
think it would be as big of a hit if not retroactively being popular from like Wet Hot. And
Wet Hot
Yeah.
definitely kept them alive. Like
Well, it's
that ember could have burned out and been forgotten about largely had Wet
Yeah.
Hot not really stoked the fire a little
You
bit.
could be right about that.
and that
I
was
feel
and that
like-
was also a bomb.
Oh, yeah,
that
it was
took-
terrible.
That had
It was
had
in
its
theaters
own
for a
cult.
week.
Yeah, I hated
Yeah.
it the first time I saw it. Somebody showed it to me like my first week of college on tape, and I was like, "This is terrible." And then I watched it again like a
Now
year
you
later.
love it.
Fantastic.
You love it, don't you?
Well,
Yeah,
probably
that's right. I think it's in my top five
maybe
comedies
my
of all
favorite
time.
comedy. Yeah.
It's
Especially
damn well up there.
even the farts version. I'll watch the
Oh,
farts
the farts
version.
version.
The farts version, if you don't know, there's a DVD audio track on the DVD for the movie. That's just the extra
Why
farts
I'll never
version.
get rid of my DVD.
And it's just like. But here's the thing: they just add farts in, and they do it for like maybe the first 15,
And then
20
just, like,
minutes.
forget about
they
it.
totally stop, and then at the end of the movie, it just comes back.
I like to think that they just went to get food and
Yeah,
like
they're
came back.
just like they're like, "What are we doing?"
I love that. I guess there was a guy just hitting a fart button watching the movie.
No, I think it was them making.
one-
It was at least Showalter making fart noises because
One,
sometimes they laugh.
One thing that I want to make mention of,
Amazing. I wanna do a farts version
if
of
we're
this
just
podcast.
turning people on to the cult of the state and their long catalog,
Yep.
You have to watch the Stella shorts, which is Michael Ian Black, Michael Showalter, David Wayne before they got the Comedy Central deal. Which how they got it off of this, I have no idea.
I might still have that DVD from like an ex-girlfriend.
It's worth it. Something.
It's a great DVD.
Hang on to it. But
I have that one too.
They did a show every week at this nightclub Fez in New York where
Mm-hmm.
they wore suits and they did like what's the
They did like kind of vaudeville-ish.
Yeah,
Marx Brothers
yeah,
almost.
right. that's the word.
Blackface.
No, not the blackface.
But they every week they premiered a new like short that they wrote, and this was pre-YouTube because it was like 2002.
yeah, these were like ultra low budget that they were just making
they filmed it in
and
their
around New York.
backyards, literally in their apartment or backyards, and way wilder than the state because they were very heavy on the dildo humor.
There was a lot of dildos.
There's one
Yeah.
skit very famously where they go to
In our circles, Dan.
they go to Santa's North Pole house,
Oh,
whatever
yes,
the fuck
yes.
it's called. And Zach Galifianakis is Santa.
Is Santa,
you
yeah.
see,
Very
you see his
pre-fame.
you see
Yeah,
his
pre-hangover.
ass. You see his ass in it
Yep.
as a nod to
Get that
The Graduate.
DVD.
What is it?
I don't remember any asses in The Graduate, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
He reaches for the.
I don't
thing and
remember.
You see his ass. It's a nod to
Wait, you
some
see
movie.
Dustin Hoffman's ass?
Animal
But,
House.
I'm gonna look that up.
But so was it? But anyways, so he goes out to deliver his toys.
Yeah.
And they leave them with Mrs. Claus, and there's a line in it where they're just hanging around. Mrs. Claus just goes, I have a cock, right? And they all
Yeah.
begin fucking Mrs. Claus,
yes.
and it's fucking. It's crazy.
It's graphic.
There's like very dildo heavy
Very
humor. in it.
homoerotic,
Oh yeah.
That's
And
a big
if you
button
watch
for
it with
Stella.
the DVD commentary on, there's they're literally sucking her off, and they're all watching it, just being like, I would never do that today, because
Yeah.
they were the young age of 31 at the time,
Oh,
like
boy.
it's something
Oh, dear.
something you would never do now.
No.
But-
I wouldn't get on my hands and knees to suck a penis at this point. Like just because my muscles hurt too much.
You'd want to do it laying down.
Like the penis would have to come to me.
Yeah.
yeah,
If the
make
penis comes to you,
yeah,
that's
if the
fine.
penis does most of the work.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah,
talk.
clearly.
But so just wild shorts that were 5 minutes long. Paul Rudd is in one of them, probably one of the best ones.
Paul Rudd is fairly, a good collaborator with David Wayne, especially because I think he's in just about all of his movies, right?
He makes.
Did he do I Love You, Man?
He didn't do I Love You, Man. He did Wanderlust, which was Paul Rudd and Jen Aniston.
Oh no, he was in Role Models, right?
He was a star of Role Models. He's obviously in Wet Hot.
Wanderlust,
The 10, he was kind of the
They came
narrator.
together?
They came together.
You know,
I think he's in all of David Wayne's movies.
If you are a fan of Paul Rudd and you're just a fan because of
Ant-Man.
right, like what are his big movies?
Anchorman was what
Right.
blew him up, yeah.
There's a whole darker underside to his career that involves all these people
Yeah.
that I would recommend looking
Yeah,
into.
definitely. I mean, I think
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think Role Models is probably David Wayne's most popular movie as far as like broadest
it
audience.
popular?
It's a pretty popular
Wait, which movie?
Role Models.
Yeah, it had some breakout success.
I like Role Models a lot.
It's not bad. I
There's
saw it
another
once.
person that we're not
It's a
talking
solid
about that
movie.
Stella gave its very raunchy beginning to.
Go on.
Bradley Cooper.
That's true.
who
Also a collaborator.
Is like the biggest star in the world now.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where he's fucking David Wayne as the devil.
Oh yeah,
Beelzebub.
I forgot about that.
Wait,
He's kicking David's butt.
Well, what-
Now he's fucking David's butt.
Did Wet Hot come before or after Stella?
Kind of around the same time, right? Like Stella was
I
probably
think
a little bit before.
Because I thought he auditioned for Wet
well,
Hot.
my DVD says Stella skits 2002 to 2004, right?
Okay, so then that would be after.
Yeah.
I'll look up.
'Cause I think he
Stella.
might have just straight up auditioned like as a regular actor.
But that was his
for
first.
Wet Hot.
Yeah, that was his first movie. Poor Bradley Cooper. His first things that he got to do as an actor were fuck David Wayne in the butt and get fucked in the butt by Michael Ian Black.
Yeah,
or no, was he doing
Look,
the
you
fucking?
got to take your lumps if you want to
Yeah.
win that Oscar.
He might have been an Alias before Wet Hot. Wet Hot might have just been right before Alias.
So Stella formed in 1997 at Fez.
Oh, my bad,
So
my
they
bad.
were a group
There's- yeah, it's a
before
group,
Wet
yeah.
Hot.
Yeah. Okay.
Since we're doing literally everything the state, we should mention Wainy Days.
Oh,
Wayne
Wainy
Days
Days
a
was
good,
brilliant. yeah.
web series. Yeah.
That was like
Very
basically
meta.
the Stella
it's
of a
a-
new generation.
It's about
Kind of, yeah.
David Wayne doing a meta show,
rom-com
a show
kind of
where he's
thing.
in a show.
Yeah.
He's narrating his own show, if
Yeah.
I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I remember.
Wainy Days is
I
great.
only remember one joke from it where he runs into Carrie Kenny from the state.
Yeah.
and he like makes a new friend with her, and she's just like, "I'm dying of cancer, and I only have one day to live, and it would mean so much to me if you could like show me around New York." And he's like, "Meet me here at sunrise tomorrow, and I'll show you the best New York tour you've ever gotten." And he like rolls up at like noon, and she's like, "What are you doing? It's noon." And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I was having a long jerk off section, and I was like trying to delay my cum as long as possible." And she's like, "Oh, right, I understand. I
Oh, of
understand."
course, yeah.
What's crazy
That's,
is
That's
so
very-
textbook
they're
their humor.
through-
Yeah,
I got to read this book because I'm very interested how they all, because in Tisch, if it was anything like when I went, which was maybe 10 years after they did, it's still a big school. Each program has like 300 people, so it's not just that they got forced together in the same class. They, you don't have to be together, and they are such different personalities.
Well, the way they tell it, again, from having listened to a few episodes of Michael Ian Black's podcast, is that they, the way they all describe it independently is that like they all knew there was something special about it, and Ken Marino was older. And he like wanted to join the group, and Michael Showalter didn't like NYU and left and went to school.
He went to Brown.
Yeah. And he like commuted just to be in the
Just
state
for the-
because
yeah.
he knew that they had something.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like some of them seem totally normal. Like Thomas Lennon was probably just like a normal guy who just happens to be funny.
Just a drama
David
kid.
Wayne, I feel like if I would be creepy. Like I wouldn't want to be like if I wasn't
No.
in his
No,
group.
he was like a kid who just liked to.
He seems like pretty normal.
Yeah,
David Wayne,
he
seemed
and
like
he was
the
just
guy
making
that-
he was just making things since he was a kid. He had like a video recorder,
Yeah.
and he was just born to do.
I don't know. I feel like he'd be like the creepy guy in the dorm who's always in the
I don't like
bedroom
this
by
David
himself.
Wayne slander.
Yeah, I don't like
if
it
David
either,
Wayne
Jack.
is
Slander.
listening,
I'm not judging. I have very good friends who fit the David Wayne mold. Some who may have been on the show, but
It's you, Dan.
I
He's talking
won't
about you.
stand for this David Wayne slander.
I just want to point out the book is called The Union of the State by Corey Stoltz, which is like we said, like a 600-page, excessively comprehensive. It talks about all of this stuff. It talks about Stella, Wet Hot, Reno, all of the projects that they did.
Viva Variety.
So Viva Variety, which is a 90s topic,
That's
so
probably
maybe
one
that'll
of the
come
only
up.
'90s ones. Yeah,
It is. That was a short-ish lived. I think it was 3 seasons on Comedy Central. send up of like European variety shows, and I saw Michael Ian
Based
Black
on a skit off of
based
the
on a
state,
skit from the skate. You're right.
Mr. Informer, Mrs. Le Pen variety program.
Oh yeah.
I just remember the Comedy Central just that was all they had basically was that and South Park.
I think it premiered the same year as South Park, so I
Yeah.
think it might have been on after South Park for a little while.
I think that's why I know it so well.
But anyway, I saw Michael Ian Black do stand up when I was in college, and I asked him about a Viva Variety DVD, and he was like, "Literally, no one wants a Viva Variety DVD." And I was like, "I do."
Well, I have a friend who wants to do it. Oh, what's his name? Also Dan.
Yeah, yeah, right.
He
No,
would
I
also
swear
buy
he is
it.
a different person.
I have a friend who I won't mention his name, and he brought
also Dan.
he found
also Dan.
he found out he was going to a wedding that Michael Ian Black was going to, so he brought a copy of his short film. And
Yeah, I'm
we
sure.
were,
I'm sure.
I'm
Michael
sure they
Ian Black
love
loved
that.
and we were like, "Don't do it, don't." He's like, "What are you gonna do? You're just gonna give him the DVD at the wedding?" Like,
Did you see these crazy wedding
really
gifts that they're
awkward.
just giving out? Apparently, they're just giving out copies of this awesome short film. I don't know. It's crazy. Anyways, take mine. I don't
Anyway,
need
just
it.
have
Yeah,
this.
he chickened out. He didn't do it.
But speaking,
It was
you,
for the best.
were speaking about the state book. Another thing is Michael Ian Black has written books more than I've
He
written.
has.
He
He does,
fucked
like,
up. I listened to
satirical
his,
essays.
His
Well, he
Terry
ha-
Gross interview.
he
He's a
has,
fucked up person.
Is he? Why? Why is he fucked up?
He had like a messed up childhood.
no, he didn't.
Oh.
He had two lesbian moms, which I don't think is fucked up.
That's
He's
fucked
just,
up,
it's
Jack?
just it's
No,
an
he's-
Take that
atypical.
anti-LGBT shit out of
No,
here.
I remember there was some. It was every once in a while you get a surprisingly dark interview with Terry Gross. Like Mike Myers just talked about suicide the whole time. Daryl
Okay,
Hammond.
interesting.
I remember Michael Ian Black talk about some like dark shit.
Tears of a clown, Jack.
Lately, I think he had a satirical Trump book for kids. He's been writing kids books.
He's been writing.
He
Yeah,
had chicken feet,
chicken
feet,
cheeks.
chicken cheeks.
Yeah, it was about a
But,
chicken's butt.
He wrote a book called "My Custom Van" and 50
Yes,
other
fantastic
essays
essay
that will
book.
blow your mind all over your face.
Yeah. Yep. And he wrote one about
Fucking-
tacos.
About it's such
you're-
a good book.
You're not invited to my taco
I
party.
remember. Oh, actually, okay. I 6 years ago, 7 years ago, so
Yeah.
I took just for fun. I took like a comedy writing class.
Okay.
And we had to bring in our assignment was to like bring in a piece of writing that we thought was funny. that we
Sure.
liked. So I brought in Taco Party by Michael Ian Black.
Yep.
The premise of Taco Party is it's an essay where it's just filled with not even vulgarities, really just the F word over and over again.
Yeah.
It's just like it's
Fuck.
very serious
Yeah,
about
the
a
F word.
taco party. It's like
Farts.
I'm having a fucking taco party. You're fucking invited.
Yeah.
This guy's fucking invited.
Yeah.
That guy over there is fucking invited. We're gonna have so much fucking carne asada.
Yeah.
You will be begging for fucking mercy.
It's just
And-
a description of having a taco party and how
yeah.
great it's going to be.
Like imagine if somebody wrote a straightforward invitation to a taco party and
Yeah.
then just put the F word in like before as an adjective and a verb in every,
Yep.
So I brought this in and I read it and people were like laughing. Because it was mostly like people about my age.
Yeah.
And there was like one gray haired woman named Pearl.
Oh, boy.
And she was like,
Pearl
well,
was not
I
having
didn't
it.
find that funny. And then like this was during I feel like the Obama run for president.
Okay.
And I remember towards the end of this class, like the end of the season of class, I was just like, I mean, come on, we're all New York liberals. We voted for Obama, but when we're doing this, and she like apparently did not, and
Oh, boy.
became very irate that I would like assume that, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I just thought because it's like Sarah Palin and she's a fucking idiot that we wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
So that's my story of reading Taco
That's funny
Party.
because I brought. So I took a TV writing class, and we all had to bring something in, and I brought in the pilot to Reno 911.
Sure.
Interesting.
And there's a scene in it where
How much of that, by the way, not to interrupt you, but how much of that is ad-libbed?
Yeah, I thought most of it. I thought they did
all
like
ad-libbed.
a script.
So what's
yeah,
the
yeah,
script?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just scenes,
they
and then
come
they
up with the
ad-lib around
scenes
it.
and then
Yeah.
they improvise.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's
It's in the book.
So they're doing their mission, their not control room. What do you call it? Headquarters scene where he's like doing the morning meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, "Look, guys, we have to stop using the N word. We've been getting complaints." And they all nod. They go, yeah. And then Carrie Kenny raises her hand, and now I'm going to say N word, but she actually said the
Yeah,
full
yeah,
N word.
yeah.
Right.
And she goes, "What about like context like?" Which N word took the last donut,
boy.
and it was a different time. It got a majority of laughs, but there was that uncomfortable ripple in the
Yeah.
class, and,
Yeah,
I
but-
didn't even know that was. I don't remember that line from being that episode, and I was just like, oh man, I thought Reno 911 would be a safe show. It's Comedy
Yeah.
Central.
No.
It's-
That's That's pretty edgy, bro.
I thought that show was brilliant, though.
It is. It's a brilliant show. The State was a brilliant show. Everything they touch is pretty much brilliant.
Yeah.
You know what? Another show that they're all, or at least part of them are involved in that we haven't talked about, Children's Hospital on Adult Swim.
Which I haven't watched that. I've watched it, but I don't. You know what's funny?
That's like David Wayne, Ken Marino.
When we were kids, and maybe just because there was less media available, I would watch it over and over obsessively until I had. We just
you
can
mean
still,
the State? Yeah,
we can still now do the taco skit from start to finish.
Yeah,
and even like Viva Variety, we would tape that.
Yeah,
but now like Children's Hospital, like it's available online, and I watched it and I liked it, but I couldn't tell you a line.
If we're getting like serious about media consumption here, like that's kind of not really a problem, but a difference between when we were growing up, because we would watch the same things over again, and now you have so many options. Literally everything that's ever been made, you can watch it.
It was like we would make each other copies of things, so we were both watching the same thing.
Right,
you know,
like I was recording the State off TV
because we had 80, 90 channels when we were kids, but we were basically forced to watch the same few things.
But the difference was you couldn't do it whenever.
Right,
you did it when it was available.
Right, and there was no DVRs
so
or anything.
We were all,
there was VHS tapes.
So Thursday mornings we were all coming and go, did you see yesterday South Park? Whereas kids, I don't know if they have that as much now. Maybe with like Game of Thrones and some other event stuff.
But I'm quite sad about the fact that I've lost that. I don't think
I've lost that love and feeling.
I don't think I've really memorized. Like, you know, we can sit here and quote The Simpsons. Probably season 1 to season 10 we could probably do total without missing a word.
Yeah.
I don't really think I sit and absorb movies. Like maybe I'll watch a movie twice.
Yeah.
But I really don't absorb quotes.
Do you guys have any shows that you kind of revisit on a pretty frequent basis, or is
New
it just
shows.
no? Like not even newer shows. Just like as an example, I watch Frasier a fair amount in my house.
I hate Frasier.
I fucking love Frasier, Dan.
I've been watching.
How
a
dare
lot
you?
of, no, yeah, I certainly. I have Simpsons, Seinfeld.
Shit, Dan.
I'm watching a lot of
Seinfeld.
Power
I watch all the
Rangers.
time.
But new shows, there's only 2 in like the last 15 years that I did multiple rewatches. One was Arrested Development, and that's a new show that's 14 years old.
I don't even count that as a new show. I mean, I've watched the whole series like 10 times.
I don't have TV, so it doesn't. Like, I have to conscientiously be like, okay, I'm going to go on Netflix and search for the Wonder Years and like maybe SNL sometimes.
Rick and Morty would be the only new show that I've gone out of my way to watch.
I've watched
2,
it twice,
3 times. Yeah.
Because it's happening in real time. It's not like Netflix where it's just like, oh, you can burn through the whole series. Like Rick and Morty, I desperately want a new Rick and Morty, but I only have 1 new episode, so I'm just going to rewatch it.
Yeah.
Sure.
I did rewatch that, but like I don't even Rick and Morty, which I would say is the equivalent now of like The State for me then or something like that, which I love it. And I'm actively watching it as it airs,
right?
But I can't.
You're never going to have the same relationship.
Not to mention we're adults now, and we have jobs, and we
Yeah.
can't watch as much TV as we used to.
Speak for yourself. I sit at my desk and watch TV all day.
I don't think anything will ever catch up to Simpsons or Seinfeld.
No. Well, and the big thing is like those shows influenced who we are. Like that's The Simpsons is part of who I am.
I watch Rick and Morty because
Rick and Morty I appreciate it and I love it, but it's not who I am.
So now if we're talking newer generations of kids, and I don't know if we might be way off. They might all be watching the same shit anyway. They find a way. Life will find a way.
They're all watching David After Dentist on YouTube.
If they're not, and we're all kind
watch
of
fucking How to Make Minecraft.
They do.
So
YouTube
we all
video.
have this like Simpsons, Conan O'Brien, Seinfeld, SNL type humor.
Yeah.
But if they're all watching separate shit, like does that mean there won't even be a unified cultural
I do
generation?
worry about that.
What's
Yeah.
Generation Z's thing besides selfies and Snapchat?
So,
I mean,
I think it's go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel like I've had this conversation with other people, probably not on this podcast.
I think we've had this conversation
Maybe we
like
have.
8 times on this podcast.
There's no monoculture anymore. It's very rare that there's a show everyone is watching.
Maybe that's why we're so
Which is-
divided.
Stranger
in a way-
Things, that's something that
In a
everybody
way,
watches.
is cool because there's more
is.
options now, and also there's not gatekeepers. So if you have a cool web series idea, you can like make that and build an audience.
You can
That's
do whatever
cool.
you want. Yeah.
Like we were just given The State, and it happened to be a good show in my
Right.
opinion.
Yeah.
And we got lucky in that regard.
Yeah.
But also, I lost where I was going with this. So take it away. Dan.
I mean, the problem is, well, it's not really a problem, but the difference is because there is no gatekeeper and because you have access to anything you want, it's very difficult for anything to break through anymore. And so that's kind of why TV ratings are going down because people have more options. And it's so tough to have like the one thing that everybody's talking
and I
about.
think honestly, so we stared at TVs for hours a day. For like
We were the warm and glow kids.
We were.
But the previous two generations were also warm and glow. It was a black and white TV, or it was a 70s TV.
Yeah, but they can quote Monty Python.
But
huh?
our parents and
I can quote Monty Python,
and
too.
maybe some a little bit younger than us, their grandparents also grew up on TV. Now
Right.
this group, I think, consumption has been replaced with communication. The way we were obsessed with AIM in high school and like they're literally on their phone snapping and
They
texting.
like each other more than they like other people.
I think that's replaced watching anything. I don't even think they're not watching the same thing. I don't think they're watching anything.
So,
I think
Jack,
they're talking to each other.
Is that the death of mass media? You think everything is now
I hope
just
not. I
social
devoted
media?
my whole life into trying to break into the biz.
I mean, everyone listens to 90s Percentile, and they're always talking about it.
Yeah,
at
people
school.
love podcasts. They
Yeah,
love my
they
No
do.
Plus Ones,
We're-
which I'm
that's
just going
right.
to plug again.
We're big in the
biggest
13
podcasts.
to
biggest
15
podcasts,
year old
Yeah.
demo.
If you're 13 to 15, write in and tell us.
Since we're coming towards the end, and I have another hot take I want to get out.
By the
since-
way, writing is what predated emojis. Continue.
Another hot take I want to get out since you mentioned Monty Python.
Yeah.
The state was really like, and I know this is a fucking fuego take, but since the state was really the first like ensemble sketch show that I saw, since then I did not like Mr. Show.
What?
I didn't like Mr. Show.
Dan, that's crazy
Mr.
talk.
Show I could watch like 3 episodes and laugh once, and that's not a good ratio for me.
Wow.
The state I laugh all the time. The Kids in the Hall, I knew you grew up on it. I
Oh, yeah.
like it,
I
but
love
I
it.
don't love it the way you do. And everything.
What about The Edge with Jennifer Aniston and Newman?
Chappelle's show was good. Amy Schumer's show is fucking terrible. Like I
But
just
I haven't
don't.
really watched
Key and
it.
Peele,
I do
I hear
like
that's
Key and Peele is
good.
good.
Key and Peele's good.
But nothing in my mind, like even a good one, is still not the state. to
Dan,
me.
I am so upset to hear you say that about Mr. Show, because Mr. Show is so
Mr.
good.
Show wasn't that like
I've never-
if
So
you could
good.
make me like a list of skits I should seek out
All
and
right.
I'll do it because I've seen some and they're all right, but I just
Okay.
don't like it the
I've
same
only
way.
I'll make you a
half-assed-
mixtape of
I've
Mr.
only
Show skits.
half-assed watched it.
Oh,
and
actually-
I think it's overrated.
No, you guys are
I feel like if I actually sat and watched it, I'd
By
like it
the
more.
way,
Yeah.
if anybody's into searching things on Twitter, Laura Jane,
Boy, am I.
Laura Jane, who we were talking about at the beginning, who is like my friend and co-author. One time, I don't even remember how this happened, but we started arguing with each other on Twitter of whether the state or Kids in the Hall was better.
Okay.
And it got to the point where she realized that David Foley follows her. So she's like, hey, at David Foley, settle this bet. Like, which is better? The state or the state? Like, hey, at Michael Ian Black, settle this bet. Because she's like, I bet you the fucking state members would say that Kids in the Hall is better. And I'm like, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But also like, and she's like, adding all at Michael Ian Black, at Michael J. Like, couldn't get an answer out of
Twitter.
anybody.
I have power, political power.
It was like people were like yelling, and it was mostly falling on me because
Yeah?
a lot of people were mad that I said the state was better than
One
Kids in the
time
Hall.
I was watching Kids in the Hall.
You upset all of Canada by that,
They
Dan.
got pissed. Twitter got mad at me.
There was a sketch, and like 2 of them were in their underwear, like in tighty whities. And
Kids in the Hall, this
yeah,
is,
and
yeah.
my very very old school longshoreman grandpa just walked in. He goes, "What the hell are you watching?"
I mean, Kids in the Hall was great. I don't know. I used to watch that all the time on Comedy Central in the reruns.
If you ever
And
wanna,
Oldest and L. I used to watch a lot of sketch comedy.
if you ever want to outrage Twitter, you can go the Bill Maher route and say the N word, or
Yeah.
you can sound less racist and say the state was better than Kids in the Hall.
I'd prefer to go the less racist
yeah,
route.
yeah. So state
High five.
better than Kids in the Hall.
Yes, I got one. Less racist. Yeah, so that's the state in a nutshell. And if you haven't
In
seen
a
it,
nutshell, in an hour.
yeah, that's
we'll
a nutshell.
have to figure out another way to talk about Wet Hot and Wet Hot first day of camp, because I remember at Dan's 30th birthday, me and other Dan,
Yeah.
we had to rush home from the Jersey Shore because it had premiered that day and we wanted to watch it before the weekend was over.
Wait, what was it?
Did it?
Yeah, first day of camp, Wet Hot. Remember we stayed at the
Yeah.
hotel a couple summers ago?
I don't remember that at all.
We should do that again.
Yeah.
Should go to the Jersey Shore and watch
should
Wet
do
Hot
that.
And
American
everybody's
Sons.
invited.
We should, all of
It's
you are
on
invited.
Dan.
In fact, you have to come.
Dan will pay for your rooms.
I didn't agree to that. All right, so
That
that's
was
it.
really nice that Dan said he would pay for their rooms for all the podcast listeners and the No Plus Ones listeners.
I'm glad.
Okay, sure. Why not, guys?
I'm glad we got it in writing and that he signed it.
Yeah, that's going to do it for this episode of 90s Percentile. But before we get to what have we learned today and wrap up the show, we want to do something very special, which is thank our newest subscribers to Patreon.
Welcome to the family.
Welcome to the fold. We'll give you guys a big virtual hug over
And
the
a
internet.
Big virtual free sync points.
And a little kissy, too, if you're lucky. That's $10
Is
or more.
that legal?
I don't know. Can you buy kisses?
Look, if
Is that
you
illegal?
give $1 million a
Charlie
month,
Brown
I
did
will.
it.
I'll
It's true.
suck your dick, but you have to bring it to me. You have to come over. You have to put it in my mouth. You have to open my mouth, put it in, close my jaw.
Oh God!
Slosh it around.
You could do a thing like people on eBay try to skirt around like the counterfeiting and like copyright laws by being like, you can buy this pencil and also get these DVDs.
Yeah,
that
but
I
remember
burned.
what happened to me? I sold a
you
bag of
do that?
air.
Oh,
For
I do remember that.
$20,000 and they fucking took it down.
Yes, I do
I
remember
said I
that.
was selling the bag.
Yeah, they don't like that when you do that.
Fuck.
Anyway, we're not going to sell you a bag of air.
We're
We are
not.
going to give you
That
free
was-
sync
That
points.
was our whole economic model.
We're going to
for
let
year
you.
4.
We're going to let you suggest 90s topics and Simpsons episodes for our other show that take precedence over everyone else. You go to patreon.com/WEE Studios and you can get in on the action. But we want to thank our newest subscribers. So first we have Fisher Michaels. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Big fan of your tweets and
Yes.
and whatnot.
Big-
not
big-
tweets. The Reddit.
He's on the Reddit. He's around. He's
Yeah.
a noted listener.
And then our other new Patreon supporter is another WEE Studios
Friend of the
community
show.
member. Yeah,
Yeah.
Josh Kerp from Uprocks.
I love Josh Kerp.
Hey,
Josh
see?
Kerp,
I
great
met
guy.
I met him in Texas. Very
Yeah.
Do you
nice,
wanna-
tall man.
Do you want to be his proxy for a high five?
Hey, Josh, right here, buddy.
There you go.
Nice.
Look at that.
Look at that. That was for you, Josh. So thanks everyone for supporting us on Patreon. Patreon.com/WEE Studios. Now we can get on with the rest of the show.
What is the rest of the show? Oh, what have we learned?
What have we learned? Let's jump right into
What
it.
have we learned today?
I have learned that people get very angry if you put the state over the kids in the hall.
Apparently.
But I learned that before I came, so what did I learn today?
I don't know, Dan. That tacos have been an integral part of our friendship.
Yeah.
You can have that one for free because I got another one.
A fourth pillar of our sturdy friendship.
And bro, tacos is fourth meal.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Dong. That was Taco Bell.
So those are the pillars that support our
Absolutely.
rock solid friendship.
Is that-
Tacos.
So was that a rumor that I read that they're going out of business?
Taco Bell?
Yeah,
No,
I read
no
somewhere
way.
that they were
Shut
closing
your
all their
mouth up.
stores.
You shut
No,
up.
that's not at all true.
Don't say that.
Yeah,
You don't jinx it. Don't use it.
Is there any left on Staten Island? They
I'm
all closed,
Googling
right?
Taco Bell closing
The
real
Taco
quick.
Bell
We
by
need
my
to
house
decide
is
this.
a bank now. It's a very
Yeah,
oddly
a lot
shaped
of them are
bank.
gone.
The first, I Googled Taco Bell closing. The number one result is Snopes.com that says it is a hoax.
Oh, okay.
That is false.
I had a feeling it was a hoax. That's why I asked.
Starts that rumor.
Here's what
That's
I
a
learned.
weird one. What'd you learn, Jack?
I learned that Joe Latruglio may or may not be Joe Latruglio, which makes sense. Jesus Silent with the
Jesus Silent.
New York Italians.
Those Italianos, hey, over here, over there.
Just goes to show you how
I'm
mixed the
gonna
state
go
was.
watch the monkeys do it.
Another classic state
Him
skit.
and Camerino, very like Italian local New York guys. You had a lot. You had
Hey, Jackie boy!
you had like.
Hey, I'm gonna popa.
Another great skit
Yeah.
from the state.
And you had Kevin Allison, who I'm assuming was Irish. And,
yeah, that's
yeah,
probably
Well, he
fair.
was the redhead
He's
gay.
redhead.
yeah, definitely a few Jews in there. So
Yep.
it was a hodgepodge.
So it was
No-
very New York.
No black
Jew,
people,
the
huh?
Italian, and the redhead gay. We all live together on Avenue A.
We each
have
see the
70
world
minutes.
in our
I
own
was
way.
going.
the
I was
Jew-
going second
Italian, yeah.
episode.
All right.
Yeah, no black people in the state.
No black people in the state.
Are they racist?
What did I learn today? I learned that Dan doesn't like Mr. Show, and I'm very upset to hear that.
Is this the end
Sorry,
of the
this is
Dan
the
Dan
end.
friendship?
You're no longer hosting Mr. Show
It's
trivia with
tearing
me.
us
That's for
apart.
sure.
Yeah.
But that's going to do it for this episode. Dan, we want to thank you so much for returning to the show.
Anytime, I love it.
If people want to yell at you on Twitter, how can they do that? How can they find you online?
At Dan Ozzi.
Let at Dan Ozzi know.
I have just filtered out Kids in the Hall from Twitter.
Hey,
I've muted
nice.
that, so don't even try it.
Well, you might actually. I don't know. After this, maybe you'll actually have some backup in the for
yeah,
pro-state.
maybe I'll find some state. I found some state
so
fans
here,
in that.
you know
in
what?
that
If you're
argument.
listening to the show and you're a big fan of the state and you really had a good time with this episode, at Laura Jane Grace and say you're wrong.
we didn't even talk about the theme song, which is amazing.
That is it's a great theme song.
Could
But
be-
we can't talk about it. The show's over.
We could do another topic. Not the theme
So
song
we can
from the
talk just
state.
the theme song. From the
Best
state.
theme song. Can we agree that they had a better one than Mr. Show?
I like the Mr. Show theme song.
you.
Mr. Show was just all right.
You
Whatever.
know what
We're
I
not
learned
talking about
today,
Mr.
Dan?
Show.
We're not friends anymore. That's what
Damn
I
it.
learned.
Well, I was going to ask how
should
people
have-
can
you
find
should
No
have a-
Plus Ones, but I'm not going to do it
I
now,
don't
Jam.
know. Search it on the internet.
Search it on the
We
internet.
should do a
on
Twitter
iTunes.
war, Mr. Show versus
Ooh,
versus the state.
I would get like hanged. I just did a Twitter poll. Who got the most sex? Mr. Bombastic,
I saw that, and
Mr. Bombastic, Mr. Brightside, Mr. Big Stuff, or another Mr. B.
but Mr. Big Stuff was doing the
It's-
worst, and that's obviously the
Yo,
right
yeah,
answer.
That's
Definitely
exactly what I was
got
going to
laid.
say. Mr. Big Stuff.
She was
Who
all
do you
like,
think you are?
yeah, but she definitely still fucked him.
Yeah,
you
of
know,
course.
like, yeah.
He's Mr. Big Stuff. stuff.
He has
Yeah.
a giant penis.
Yeah, it's in the name. Mr. Bombastic? Who's going to fuck that guy?
Was
the
it
fourth
blow
one?
up?
Oh, Mr. Bombastic.
Yo, but that
Jackie
also,
Fantastic.
really though, that was a
Mr.
good ass song.
Brightside.
No one likes
Mr.
That was the
Brightside
winning-
got
that was
that
winning
was the
by a
second one.
landslide,
That's a
wasn't it?
shame.
But that
damn.
got the least sex. Mr. Blue Sky got the lowest voice.
Mr. Blue Sky's
Mr.
not
Blue
having sex.
Sky,
He's
yeah,
a fun
yeah.
guy,
Yeah,
but you
yeah.
think he might
Yeah,
be gay?
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know.
All right, Dan. So thanks so much
I
for
just want
being
to say
here.
that gay guys have sex.
Gay guys have sex all the time, and there's nothing. I like gay sex.
Then how come they keep telling me no?
Then they just don't want sex with you. Jay.
Yeah.
It's because you ate a sleeve of Oreos for dinner.
I thought that was like their turn on.
Oh boy. If you want to follow the show on Twitter, we're at 90s Percentile or at WEE Studios Pod for everything that we're doing. Jack, where are you on Twitter?
I am on the Twitter. You are correct. And
boy.
my
Oh,
Twitter
boy.
handle is the following.
Jack, an hour ago. Hey, let's make this quick. I got stuff to do after this recording.
I'm so tired. At Jackie No Breaks.
And I am at Then Dan Says. Obviously, the show, if you want more episodes, you go to WePodcast.com. You can get our Simpsons show, worst episode ever there. You can get more episodes of this show, our sync points, our Patreon, our Reddit. All of our stuff is at WePodcast.com. And before we get out of here, I want to say you can go to Amazon.WePodcast.com, support the show, click through our links, shop that way. If you don't want to spend any money, you can give us a 5-star review on iTunes. We do not have any new 5-star
That's all
reviews.
right. Write us one.
Everyone who's going to do it has done it,
I'm gonna do
except
it right
Dan.
now.
You want to do it right now?
Yeah, I got off. I actually one time missed my bus stop because I was trying to leave you a good review.
Oh, wow.
So wait, did you miss the
No,
bus
I
stop? Oh, okay.
got the both. I missed the stop and I didn't get to.
Dan,
It's a lose-lose.
that is the darkest
And
timeline, my friend.
while Dan's prepping this, you also, just spread the word in comment sections and whatnot. If you see a 90s article or, Simpsons article,
Yeah.
or you see something about the state for some reason,
Yeah. If you
let us
are
know.
Ken Marino,
Everybody,
tell people about this
at
show.
Michael Ian Black on Twitter and tell him to listen to this podcast.
I mean, don't bother him. We don't
Yeah.
want to
No,
piss
bother
him
him.
off.
Tell
He's
him-
the-
tell him-
Alright,
He's
fine.
on Twitter all the
I
time.
know.
He would probably love it.
Tell him my friend has a student film he'd like to show him.
Tell him I saw him once when I was in college, and I asked about Viva Variety DVDs, and I still want to know when they're coming out.
Tell him to at Laura Jane Grace and say Dan was right. The state is better than
That's
Kids
I
true.
can't
Ball.
believe they didn't.
That's
Nobody,
true.
not one of them got back to. You know why? Because it looked like a mess. Like I realized
Yeah.
Laura's like a semi famous person.
Sure.
but it looked like two lunatics. Just be like, hey, at Michael Showalter,
Tell this guy he's an asshole.
and everybody's jumping in like, yeah, tell Dan he's wrong. Fuck Dan.
And that's the review that Dan is leaving for the podcast. Wonderful, wonderful job.
5 stars, I hope.
5 stars, 100%.
All right. Please check out Dan's new podcast. It is a thing that is on
If
the
you
internet.
like music, you'll love it. Is there any music in the show?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
There you go.
I
Because
expected
you
to say
told
no.
me that I could do it rights free if it's
Ooh,
commentary.
let's not say that on the air.
Dan said you
I
could do
am not
it.
your lawyer. I gave you legal information only.
I meant I
Dan-
went to legal.com is what I meant.
Dan took you into a room. He asked everybody else to leave. He said, "We could drop this Flint thing. Also, you can use all the music you want."
Yeah.
Lordy, I hope there's a tape.
I do tape all of my conversations, but
Well, we are. That's
you know what? You're right. We do tape most of our conversations.
every time we have a conversation off air, we're like, "We should be recording this."
This
And
is
then your wife
gold.
and my girlfriend give us looks.
Oh God.
that look.
Yeah,
that sound that you just made.
They don't high five.
They do not high
I
five.
don't think they've ever high
They low
fived
five.
once. Have they low
Has
fived?
my wife ever high fived me? I'm gonna go home and give her the high
I'm
five
going
of her
home
life,
and
baby.
high five my wife.
All right, that's gonna do it with the show. Let's get out of here, Jack.
Thank you, Dan. My name is Jack.
My name is Dan.
That sounded
That did sound weird.
and also, I was talking to the other Dan.
I know you were.
Oh, thanks, Jack.
To Dan, the better. Dan, Dan the
Oh.
guest. Dan,
amazing
Dan,
Dan.
my high five buddy.
I can't
And
believe I did it.
my name is Jack. And
Shake hands, at least.
well,
Have a
that-
hearty handshake.
That's quiet though.
Dan's doing it with the wrong hand.
to
This
do with
is
the wrong
awkward
hand.
as hell.
Dan's waiting for me to give him a high five. So here it is.
yeah.
Hey, ow, your ring.
Oh, sorry, dude. I don't know if you said my name is Jack, but my name is Dan, and we'll see you in another decade.